Hey, welcome to Panakal Podcast for Geeks, a show about good friends hanging out, talking about things we all love. You guys all know my co-host, Andrew
No,
Sides. We do not have a guest for this episode. We're just going
no
to
guests.
do a catch-up call because we've been at shows and I think everyone's so
Yeah.
super tired and it's really
We're
hard to
we were
get.
both in like the Philadelphia region, but like a week apart.
Yeah, it would have been nice if we were there at the same time because we could have at least we haven't hung
Yeah.
out since IX 2018,
To say
2019.
the last time we hung out, you were about to have a baby,
Yeah, so it'd be
and I was
2018.
and we I think I had just gotten married. So it's been a minute.
Yeah, it would be 2018 because I think that was I was at the show like she's gonna have a baby any minute now.
Mm.
Yeah, that sounds about right. And she's gonna be 5, man, in 2 months. So
Yeah, yeah.
that's about right.
Mine's like four and a half
Yeah,
ish,
same. Our
or
kids
close to
are.
that.
When's your kid's birthday?
July 11th,
Yeah,
7/11.
so she's just a little older than Violet. So,
Yeah.
um, I'm gonna drink some tea because I definitely blew out my voice. I went the whole week without any issues, and then the showcase happened, and it's so loud in the showcase, which is unbelievable because of the ballroom,
Hey,
right?
actually, yeah. So I have some questions about Illuxcon this year,
Yeah, man,
just
shoot.
as an outsider thing. So I do know about the hotel snafu that happened.
Yes, I
Was
could tell you
that
about that.
was that a result of there being more people at Illuxcon this year than before?
Yeah, they said the hotel basically admitted to overbooking. They said every year we
Okay,
overbook because people cancel. It just happens. So they're
that's
never
like
worried
an
about not.
airplane tactic. Yeah.
Correct. So they were like, we're never worried about not having space. But I guess this year, what ended up
No,
happening is
no one canceled.
no one canceled, and more people wanted to come in. Like there were people who
Mm.
I talked to a couple artists who didn't even book their room till like uh September, early October. And I was like, what? I was like, I booked
Wow.
way back when they first sent it to me because I was scared I wouldn't be able to get a room here.
Yeah. I mean,
Um,
that's the again, like this going back to like a private conversation.
yeah,
Adults.
adults, yes. And yes, clearly the people I'm talking about were children who waited till the last minute. Um, and they also, to their credit, the DoubleTree put, I don't know what the other hotel looks like, honestly, but it was just on the other side of the bridge, I heard. And over the bridge is actually, if I remember correctly, that's where all like the nice houses are, and that's where all
Mm.
the nice like restaurants and stuff. We went to like a restaurant on that side once, so I'm pretty
Oh,
sure the
okay.
hotel wasn't bad. It just sucks
But
because you're
it's the
not near the
distance.
yeah, it's a distance,
Yeah.
right? It's past the Goggle Works, so it's like if you wanted
Oh,
to
wow.
stay
Yeah, that
late,
that is yeah, you'd be shit out of luck.
yes. I mean, if you stayed at the hotel, here's the thing: if you stayed at the hotel late night in the lobby and hung out, you have to figure out how to get back to your hotel. You either drove in or you take a Uber back or whatever.
Yeah.
But um, this year, I feel like was a little different than previous years. People didn't really stay up past like 12:30. Um,
Really?
yeah, you know how we all rally and we're up to like 3 or 4 in the morning.
Oh
We
my
were just
god,
cashed out.
everyone's getting old.
I mean, Saturday night after the showcase closed, we did stay up till about, dude, we stayed up till like 3:15, which I was like, fuck is wrong with us? We used to be able to stay up till like 4 or 5 in the morning, and not doing
I
anything, right?
I
Just hanging
haven't
out
I
and
haven't
catching
done
up.
that in years, yeah.
Dude, nobody, everyone, like, I literally, it was like at 3 o'clock in the morning, I think. I just looked at Claire and I was like, I'm going to bed. And then she's
Yeah.
like, "Well, I'm coming." She was one of my roommates, so she was like, "I'm coming too." And then as I was walking past Ben and Elise, I was like, "I'm going up," and Elise was like, "I'm coming with you too." And then Ben was like, "Me too." So I slowly like, got all my roommates to go, and we literally went upstairs, probably chatted for like 20 minutes in the room, and passed out. But I was like, I felt like a previous version of us would have been like, does anyone have any extra booze we can drink? We could stay up a little later and just catch up. But I think
Yeah.
everybody was just tired, man. I mean, I don't know.
So was it more crowded this year?
It didn't. Okay, so the
Did it
showcase,
feel like it? And then
the show itself felt crowded. Like the showcase was crowded, and the main show felt
uh
crowded.
okay.
but the hangout time didn't. There was a point where the bar always feels a little crowded because you have to go into the bar to buy drinks and all that. Even though I'm not drinking, so I didn't have to go in there, thank God. But the lobby is usually full of us, right? We are in the front
Oh
there.
yeah,
We're
yeah.
on the
No, it's scattered
couches.
everywhere.
We were just, and it wasn't like that. I mean, there were people on the couches, but maybe like six of us just chilling,
I
catching
wonder
up.
if that's also because of like it having to get split across the two hotels. There may not have been
Maybe,
like there may have been people that are like, I don't want to
yeah.
stay
They
out
were
late
doing their own
because of that.
hangout there at
They're out.
the hotel. Maybe, I don't
They
know.
could have, yeah, they could
I
have.
mean, it just felt like everybody was kind of making a shared decision to say, "Hey, man, we still want to hang tomorrow, and we don't want to be hungover, so let's just
Right.
get some sleep." Even on Sunday, which is like the last night, everyone's done. It's like we usually stay out till the fucking sun comes up, and we're just tired flying home or whatever. Dude, we were
Mhm.
all upstairs and in bed by like 12:15, 12:30.
Oh man.
Yeah, and then I mean I was up by 7, but it was like I got plenty of sleep. Well, I got some sleep. Um, one of my roommates snores really loud. I don't know who it is yet, but when I find out next time, people's elbow. I'm pretty sure it was Ben. I'll throw him under the bus. Because ladies don't snore, right? Um,
I told that. Well,
it's just the dudes apparently. But
allegedly.
allegedly. But the show felt. I mean, everything felt good. Like the show didn't feel stressful at all.
That's
Everybody
good.
seemed like they were having a genuine good time. There was, like the showcase had. I mean, I felt like every year I go to the showcase and I take a minute to walk around. There's probably a few artists in there where I'm like, I want to buy this, I want to buy that, I want to buy this. Dude, I wanted something from like every table in there. Like
Oh really?
every artist in the showcase this year was just like knocking them out of the park. Like
Oh man.
there was, I didn't buy much because after the Dragon Con incident where I didn't make enough extra money, like I just didn't have any spending money. I
Right.
had X, and I could show you. Oh, for my piece that I'm gonna show, since I didn't remember what to show today, I will show the original piece that I bought from Miles Wool, that he bought to me at the show. So I'll unwrap that
Very nice. Yeah.
next. But
I I'm curious. I'd be curious to see. Oh, speaking of conventions, congrats on your Muddy Colors
oh,
post.
thank you. That is,
Yeah.
I gotta really thank like Miles and stuff and for that because I didn't realize I didn't realize I could just message them and be like, I got this idea for an article, and then
Yeah,
they,
I had no idea either.
well, they're gonna proof. You got to pitch them a decent
Uh,
idea for
right,
starters. You
right.
can't just be like, I want to write something. Um,
Let me give you my whole expose on dragons or something. Yeah,
correct.
no.
No, Steven, you can't get that in here. Like, um, but basically, I was talking to Miles because he had an article and he was just like, you just, if you got a good idea, reach out and talk to. So I reached out. I said, here's this idea I've got. I've got a couple more, so I'm gonna reach out to them again later. And then I didn't realize how stressful it was to write said article because you're like, a bunch of people are gonna read this, and if you say the wrong thing, there's probably gonna be trolls in there at some point.
They're pretty good about moderating that, I feel
Yeah,
like.
I mean, you ever
I
read
really
that
don't see
article
them.
that Lauren wrote about trolls, and then trolls? I believe it
It
was calling out
it's
people who troll people, and then there are people literally trolling in the. You're just like,
I'm not surprised. It's also been a while since I remember
I
reading
can't
that,
remember what the
so
article was
I'm
about
not
exactly,
trusted
but
on it.
they did exactly what we all knew they would do. You're just like, come on.
Right.
But yeah, so I wrote the article a while back, and then I was supposed to send it to them by Dragon Con, but I
Mm,
just my problem
just
with writing is I always write more. So I always write more than I have to. So luckily I have a really good editor. So she broke it all down and then just basically took out stuff. Like I wrote like paragraphs or something, and she's like, "You're kind of saying it. You don't need this. Like
yeah,
there's stuff I put in there where like if people want to know more, they should ask, right?" And I
yeah.
was like, "Cool." Uh,
That makes sense. I mean,
yeah.
you've seen my Patreon posts. You know I can be fucking long-winded.
Oh, I know. I'm just kidding. I don't really. I just look at your art, by the way. I don't really read half the time.
Oh man, yeah, you're missing out on tips that
I
you
read some
don't
of the
use
tips
because you're digital.
because I'm digital, guys. I just press one button, stuff just comes out.
And actually, even if like I don't know
Side
if
note,
my
I'm just
digital
joking in case anyone thinks that's actually what I do.
no,
No.
it's two buttons. You
It's
got to
too much.
do you have to do the open and then the save. It doesn't fucking save it for
I don't even
yourself.
do that, man. I just have a monkey that sits here and does it for me. Pay him in bananas.
Yeah.
He gets the job done. Gonna take over the
Uh,
world one day. Um,
Honestly, I don't even know like outside of like any general Photoshop things I would have. I don't know like if my usual like sorcery within that program would be applicable to you because it's like things
I've just been
like
getting a lot.
replicating art or replicating like my traditional workflow for the most part.
No, I mean a lot of my current um like if I'm trying some new Photoshop tricks, a lot of my current new I don't want to call it new, but tricks that I've learned in the last couple months have actually come from Ben. He'll randomly just say something to me. Like he taught me some cool texture things last week, and then um, he showed me this like blend if function, which doesn't work all the time on my stuff, but it's definitely worth experimenting with.
Is that when sorry, we had another plan going. We'll go back to our plan of talking about the trips and stuff, but we'll take this Photoshop diversion
Correct.
real quick. Is this when you it's hard to explain it in
So
words,
it's
but when you basically
basically
double click on the layer, brings
yes
up that window, and then there's two
on the
sliders on the
bottom.
bottom.
Correct.
Yes.
And then you
Oh,
could change
okay.
the
Yeah, you
blending
started playing
mode,
around with that?
and it's
Yeah.
not just the sliders. That slider itself splits into two more.
Yes, and
So
then
now you got
you can
four
fine
things to
adjust
mess with.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, you technically have eight sliders. And when you fine tune it, you start seeing like I used it on this nature piece that I'm
I'm
working on for
I'm
Greyland Games.
surprised. Yeah, I'm surprised you haven't used it sooner
I'm
because
very what's the word I'm looking for? Basic.
it's
Um
very, very good for, blending together textures because 'cause it'll take, like, the high pass, low
yes.
pass on it, and
So that's what
yeah.
he was trying to show me, and he'll show me more stuff later. We should just have him on the show to show us. But either way, that kind of helped with some texture tricks. But I'm used to like layer adjustments, and since I'm in Scott's class, we do a lot of gradient. Uh,
Gradient maps?
we don't do not the gradient maps necessarily, but the radial gradient. We'll like
Oh
pick,
my goodness.
we'll just pick like a specific color, hit it with a radiant. Uh, what is it? Yeah, the radiant gradient. That sounds stupid. That's not right. Whatever it is, and you hit
Yeah,
it, and then you
radial gradient.
radial gradient. There you go. And then you'll
Yeah.
like drop the fill, change the layers to like multiply or overlay, and it gives you kind of the same effects. Like I said, I'm doing things the long way because I didn't know any better, right? But
Mhm.
it for my workflow it fits. But once Ben showed me this, I was like, it's worth testing because it might speed up my workflow and it might also change some of the way things like because some of my like a lot of my work is very like it's just very stark, and
Mhm.
what if it could blend together just a little bit. I don't want it to blend so much that it looks rendered too much because that strays away from
Good
my style.
effect, yeah.
Yeah, so that's the fine line I have to walk.
Nice. Do you use this will be my last Photoshop question before we go back, do you use gradient maps at all?
I do. It doesn't. So I've been getting better at grayscaling everything first, and then doing the gradient maps. If not, I have a bad habit of going right to color. But what I've learned to
It
do is put a grayscale layer on top that I turn off and on. And then once I know it works, then I'll put gradient maps just to. Because sometimes if you put enough, you put like two or three gradient maps on top and change
Yeah,
um,
you can get some interesting
the
effects
blending
between
modes.
it, especially yeah,
Yes.
especially if you do some layer masking with them.
Yes. And then you change the blending modes, and then sometimes you get something interesting. Doesn't always. I feel like the gradient maps are always kind of too dark or too muddied for me.
It
But
depends on yes, it can be. You just have to be very diligent about the spectrum that you're setting up for the gradient map.
right.
Um for me, it tends to be like you either are going to keep it very simple where it's only two colors and
Hmm.
you need to make sure that the colors are not that saturated, like it's kind of like keep them relatively desaturated. This is at least like what works for me, right?
Right.
Or if you want to have saturation, you should probably introduce like two or three stops in between those two highs and lows, and then you
Right.
can play with your saturations within there.
So what I
I
find is,
tend
I'm sorry.
oh
Go
oh
ahead.
keep going.
No, you're good.
What I've been doing lately, this is more just for like work, a lot of like my work stuff, like client work for the day job, is I've been having to replicate a lot of like spaghetti Western posters and stuff.
I saw that one
For
you shared.
yeah, for a bit. Yeah, so the one you saw, which unfortunately I can't share anywhere else right now.
Right. Sorry, I
Um,
probably shouldn't have mentioned it.
no, no, it's fine. It's fine. No one else has no idea what what it
Okay.
is.
It's
Um,
Godzilla.
the yeah, I wish. Well, but there is a that dry brushy effect in it though. So that was done with like gradient maps. What happened was like I did the whole thing grayscale, the initial like dry brushing effect to get the tonal values in, and then I basically turned that into a gradient map that mapped the way that oil paints kind of dilute
Yeah.
it, like when you thin them out with Gamsol. Specifically, this was a specifically like burnt sienna thing. So, and this is like weird painting technicalities. If you look at like burnt sienna, when you take it like from the tube and then dilute it down, and this is really this also happens in acrylic, but it more happens. You more notice it with oil because oil. I think the way that the pigment gets suspended in oil affects it like this, and
Hmm.
because it's like linseed oil, there's a warm color to it. Um, it doesn't just go from like dark brown to like light brown and then white, right? Or like fades out from there, right? What happens actually is it goes through a shift where it starts off in this really rich, almost black, but it's a dark brown. Then that shifts into like a red, then into an orange, and then that turns into like a yellow, like almost like a weird anemic, like jaundice color sort of thing. And then it becomes from that it would fade out into like nothing or white or whatever.
Sure.
But yeah, if you set it up that way, you can get that look, that oil paint look to it, where a flat gradient doesn't quite give it.
You did
And
that in
that's
Photoshop, you're
where I
saying?
yes, yeah, and
Mm.
that's where I think like gradient maps really shine because you can really fine tune the colors on it to
Right.
get it to how you need it to be, instead of the just like a generic. Like if you do it like from one color to the other, it's like yeah that works, but like you said, like you kind of do that with more general gradients anyway without
Yeah.
implementing the gradient map.
And
Oh,
sorry, I keep yawning. I'm just super exhausted.
yeah, yeah. So you just came back from Aluxcon. Did you get back on Monday or?
Tuesday. We basically drive. When I leave, I drive from here to Ohio and from Ohio there, and then
Okay,
I stay with our friend Andrew Thompson, who's been on the
so it's
show
like a
before.
two day trip.
Yeah, it's six. It's roughly 7 hours both ways. So it's total of 7 on Tuesday and 7 on Wednesday. Because it's technically
Oh,
6 to Ohio, but we have to stop for
okay.
gas at least twice, and then we have to stop for a meal. And I usually just eat in the van and keep driving.
It's
So,
6 to 7 hours driving. That's a fucking slog.
well, I had Melissa with me too, was in the show a couple weeks back, and so when we were driving there, I was able to just do it myself. So I'm just like, yeah, LuxCon, I'm super hyped. I'm not tired at all. But then on the way back, so we left on Monday, and I was just like dead to the world because poor sleeping. I sleep best in my own bed, obviously. And then I'm in a room where um, my roommates were actually all really chill. It's just we all got up early every day to go get so it's free breakfast from like
Yep.
6 to 10, and we'd all wake up around 7 or 8, and there's four of us, so we all have to get ready, and then we all got to go down. We go downstairs together to eat and stuff. But there's no day where we're like, I'm just gonna skip breakfast and sleep in because that sounds stupid.
Yeah.
So and then I gotta be like Shanna, who we need to get on the show someday. But Shanna's game is what I want to get on. She would just go take a nap. Like, peace out,
Oh.
homies. And when I roomed with her once, that's what we would do. Like around 2 or 3, she'd be like, "Should we go take a nap?" I'd be like, "I'm down," and you wouldn't see either of us for an hour and a half or so because we just go fucking sleep in our room, pass out. And I was like, I did not do that this round. I wish I had because I did. There's a photo Tawny posted on Facebook. There's a day where apparently I'm snoring. I only snore when I'm really tired, and I apparently passed out on the couch, and I was just snoring away. So they said they didn't record me, thank God, but they took a photo. Like I
Let me
was,
let me ask you: Are you a short napper or a long napper?
when I'm at home and I take a nap, I try to do 15 to 20,
Right.
period. Because if I go past that, I'm gonna go like 2 or 3 hours, easy.
That's me. Like
Yeah.
I stick to like 15 and under if I
Because I'll
can.
be like, because you wake up and then you're just like trying to get your body motivated again, and your
Hmm.
body's just like, man, I thought we were sleeping. Like, why are
Yeah.
we trying to move again? Like, and I
Yeah.
always feel like my body feels like a fucking like Jaeger trying to come to life, like I gotta go fight something. So let's get this shit together, you know. But so like every day we're doing this. Also you're just excited because you're like trying to get some rest so you can go hang with your friends that you won't see again for another year.
Yeah.
Something, and not to say like we don't all communicate throughout the year, but it's not the same. Like it's
No, yeah, you miss the in person.
you miss the in person. Like even my roommates, like Ben and I we were together for Gen Con, we were together for Lotus Con, but it was still nice to hang with Ben at Illuxcon, right? Like he's a super chill dude. Elise too, and Claire. I haven't seen Claire since last year, so and Tawny and Melissa got a room right next to ours, which is cool because we put all the food in their room, so I would just go over there to make tea and peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for lunch, and carry the tea to the show. I had a peanut butter and jelly sandwich in my bag. I told the other three they're more than welcome to dip in to what we've got if they want something. I think Claire had tea with us one day. I can't remember if she actually drank while she was in there, but um, you know, it was just a chill, like low key IX, which we haven't had in a minute. Um,
Yeah.
I spent a lot of
So
time
so
walking the
so
main
just
show. What's
just
that?
despite it being more crowded from what it sounds like, or like there being more
It
people,
just I wouldn't say
it
it
was
was
more low
like
key.
it wasn't like shoulder to shoulder crowded. It just felt busier. Like if you're on the first floor of the main show, dude, it was hot in there. And I felt like part of that heat was they weren't opening enough windows, but part of it felt because the second floor and third floor was chill. But I felt like it's
Right.
because there were a lot of people in there, like just looking around, trying to take in the new work. And I don't know if I posted a photo of this, but Donato had this painting in the back by his wall. Dude, this thing was like 10 feet tall, 8 feet tall,
Oh my
and
god.
like it would take up this whole wall. That's how big it was. And I was like, "How did you put that together in here?" Because it was stretched on canvas. And he was telling me basically drove in. He had this giant wood plank behind it. I'm pretty sure I took a photo. I'll send it to you later. He had a giant wooden plank behind him. And then he had the canvas stretched in front of that. And he explained to me like the metal, the canvas bars were just metal pieces. It's a metal frame that he put together. He stretched the canvas himself. Apparently, came in and put it all together. And this thing just leaning on the wall in the back there. Probably the biggest piece in the whole friggin' show. It was insane how big this thing
God.
was. And it was
What, Lord of the
Gandalf,
Rings piece
Lord of the
or
Rings,
yeah,
of course, yes. And it's
never
um
know. Could be astronauts.
yeah, could.
There's
It's
a non-zero chance.
it was a what do you call it? Gondor, lighting the flames,
Oh,
across the
okay.
mountains.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah,
And
I
there's
know the
this
one.
in the back, and the thing is, if you're looking at this and you're not a Lord of the Rings fan, you wouldn't know what the fuck those were because there's only two little flames in the one directly in front of you, and then one way, way, way back in the background, and then and I was talking to John about this because like right in the bottom left corners, Gandalf riding on Shadowfax, and I'm like, what if you have a fan who doesn't want that and was like, hey, can you just paint over this part here because it just looks like a landscape then, right? And he's like, I wouldn't sell it to them. I was like, that's a good answer. He was selling this painting. You want to take a guess on what the value of this painting was? How much it was selling for?
Oh, uh 8 by 10 and some
Uh,
Lord of the Rings
Here
thing
I'm
and
gonna hang on. I'm gonna send you a photo of it, and then that way you can at least
because I
you can
have a number in mind, but I just need to
look at this, and then you can analyze based on that.
yeah.
Give me a
Well, you know
second.
what? Like, good on him for saying like he won't paint out because you know who did used to do that. Funny enough, is Frank Frazetta for some of his pieces.
We just paint them out.
Yeah, there was
There, I
notably
sent it to you.
there's
Oh, that's a bad thing on size, but you get the idea of the painting.
okay. I'm gonna say
I would say it's at least eight
I'm
feet
gonna.
tall by. Dude, I
All
want to
right,
say it was 10 or
this is
12 feet
my
wide.
this is my conservative estimate. I'm gonna say 40,000.
Too low.
Okay, yeah, I kind of figured. In that case, I'm gonna double and say 80.
Still too low.
Really,
Yeah.
200?
Closer.
Wow,
I
higher
mean,
still?
higher.
Yeah, he could get it because
Because it's Donato, man.
it's Donato and it's a Lord of the Rings piece. 250.
Close. 225.
Okay, 220.
And in
Wow,
my, I talked to him for a minute about it because I was just like, you know, Donato can get that because it's Donato and
he's got enough. I was gonna say he's got enough past experience. He probably knows that price, and he probably has a collector in mind for that
correct.
piece.
Dude, it's beautiful. It was a beautiful. I mean, we were all joking about like getting second mortgages. Some of us were like, "How about if we just split the payment and you keep it for 2 months, I'll keep it for 2 months?" Because then I was telling us it
Like that
basically
Simpsons
rolled
gag.
up. Well, I was like, "Yeah, exactly, right." Gotta carefully turn those pages.
Yeah,
Because we were like, I was like, "How did you get that in here? Like, how did you travel with it?" And
it
essentially,
had to be rolled up.
he rolled it up, and he was
Yeah,
explaining to me how you could roll it up a few times before it gets too old, and you definitely shouldn't roll it up after that point.
right.
Um, but yeah, he rolled it up, stretched it out there.
If I'm mistaken, unless I'm mistaken, I think doesn't Manchester do that for like he stores all his paintings rolled up.
Yes, exactly. Manches was the
Yeah,
other example I was given. I believe it was Manches, but I was just like, I don't know, man. It was probably one of the biggest pieces I've ever seen in the showcase in the main show, and you know, it was Lord of the Rings, and 9 out of 10 of us in that show love Lord of the Rings.
oh yeah.
So yeah, I don't know who the weirdo is that doesn't like Lord of the Rings, but there's got to be one in there somewhere. So I know
Yeah,
you
I
and I are trying to
wonder.
think of who it could be, but I'm pretty sure there's somebody in there that doesn't like Lord of the Rings. It 10 out of 10 would be too perfect a number. So
Like, okay, like I wouldn't say I love Lord of the Rings, but I don't dislike Lord of the Rings.
right,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I met somebody at the. Oh, I'm not gonna call her up by name, but I met somebody at this show who is an artist in our group who has not seen Star Wars. And
Okay, you know what though? I used to be
but
flabbergasted by that, but I kind of get it at this point.
they knew what Star Wars was, though, to their credit, right?
That's what it
So,
is.
so I was like, all right, we can let
It,
that slide.
you know what? You know why? Because like, no, neither Divergent. Uh, because I think it's the same way where I feel the same way with like anytime they want to do a Batman origin or Superman origin. Culturally, like kind of everyone knows what the origin stories of those are. They're
Yes,
ubiquitous. At least Batman, Superman, maybe not as much, but Batman is ubiquitous enough where everyone fucking knows. Yeah, his parents get shot. Yada yada yada. It goes on, goes on. And I think Star Wars is the same way, where you know the broad strokes so much at this point. Even without seeing it, you kind of just culturally absorbed what the
mm-hmm.
broad strokes of the movie are that you may not feel like you need to go see it. That's the
Right.
same way, and that's like I think the same way as like the old Universal monster movies like Dracula or like Frankenstein or whatever. Like those have been such a part of our pop culture for so long that I think a lot of people just say like, yeah, yeah, I don't need to see it because I know it. Like it's in the zeitgeist and I know generally what it's about that I don't need to see it. And actually I'll go even one further. The same thing with like Lovecraft. Like there's a lot of people that like Lovecraft, but then they read any of the stories or anything.
Right.
It's less a
You
specific
said
story.
Lovecraft and thunder clapped right out the window.
Oh, that's
That's why I
amazing.
was like, that's not that's some
That's amazing.
foreboding shit over here. So
But yeah, it's that same thing where it's like they like the idea of it, but maybe not have read a
right, because you're
specific
like,
story.
because I've met people, some people like that where you're just like Cthulhu, they get it.
Mhm.
But you say something like Yog Sothoth, and they're like, I don't know what you're talking about, and you're
Yeah.
just like, "It's Lovecraft."
Or like I think The Strange Life of Timothy Zahn, I think is the name.
Oh
I'm probably. I
yeah.
think I might actually be. I don't think that's his
I don't
actual
know if that's the
name,
name,
because
but I
that's
know
the
what you're
that's
talking
an
about.
author for Star Wars.
Yeah. I don't think that's the
It,
name of the character.
it's something Zahn. I think it's like Eric Zahn. I just.
I've read
I,
that one, but it's so old.
yeah,
I
but
mean, they're
no,
all
like
old.
that's like a story that doesn't necessarily jump out as like, oh, a Cthulhu thing, because not really about that.
Well, there's the
But yeah,
they
no,
have
I think to the unnamed person's credit, I think that's what it is at this point. Like, because I used to be like flabbergasted by that. I was like, how have you not seen Star Wars? And now
dude.
it's like,
When she said
yeah,
it, I
I
was
kind
like,
of get it.
what? They also have
Younger,
not seen Back to the Future. Younger.
yeah, that's also the
Back to
other
the
play.
Future,
It's
I
like,
was like, I get it. You're younger than I am, so you probably don't have the time. You just, if you know, Back to the Future, oh, and Indiana Jones, I believe was the other one. But those movies are movies that like our generation grew up with, right? Like I could see it. Like her generation did not really. I mean, she's. I don't know what movie was her generation. Clueless, you know, like
and
yeah.
it's also like, this is kind of the same factor as like, oh shit, which music artist was it? I don't remember. I want to say Lana Del Rey, but I could be wrong on that. There was a musical artist I was asked like, "Oh, like who's your influences? Do you like Eddie Van Halen?" And she's like, "I don't know who that is." And they're like, "What? You don't know who Eddie Van Halen?" It's like, "Well, no, she's like 30-ish
Right.
years out from that kind of, like, of course she wouldn't know who that person is. You don't expect her to."
I think people bank on like because a lot of people like someone like my age. I'm not that old, but my cousins listened to a lot of oldies rock when I was growing up, and so did my dad.
Yeah.
Right, so like my knowledge base of something like Led Zeppelin, for example, that came out way before I was born, um,
Yeah.
is based on my dad and my cousins listening to it, and then I have their records. Same thing for like CCR. Um, you name an old band, and people are like, "How do you even know this band?" Like
Yeah.
Nancy has a knowledge base of some old ass bands, and every time she knows, I'm like, I don't even know who this band is, but it's because she was the youngest of six, you know.
Mm.
And I think some of these people just didn't have young siblings or cousins or whatever that may have introduced them to an older band
Yeah.
or older movies. Like I watched a lot of older movies because my cousins, like, you know, by the time Return of the Jedi came out, like I was
That
already
was
like 7.
82, I wanna say?
Yeah,
Yeah.
80,
Or was that 84?
86, because I was 7 or 8.
Oh, that was 86?
Hang on, I'm gonna do a Google search. I got Google here.
Yeah.
What
But sometimes it's not as fun.
year?
But yeah,
Anyway.
no,
Oh, it's 83. You were close.
okay, yeah, 'cause
So
I thought it was, like,
83,
before I was born. Yeah.
and then I believe I was 7 when I saw it. There's a theater out here, Yorktown, with the Skokie Cinemas, and I watched it was my one of my best friends at the time and my cousins. We went and watched all 3 movies in one day, with intermissions, obviously.
Mhm.
And we ate lunch. You know, I remember they had like hot dogs and stuff like that for the kids. But I remember like, sorry, I got something on my glasses. I just remember like not even knowing what Star Wars was until that. Like I had an
Until that
idea
day,
of it
yeah.
because like I would eat like my cousins would always get me 3POs cereal. Remember
Mhm.
those? And I had the
Yes.
collector's cards and stuff. So I had and I had some golden books. So I had a base knowledge of like what is this series? In my head, I was just a comic book. But then I'm watching this movie and I'm like, oh, just blown away. Just
Yeah.
so it's kind of cool, when you have siblings or older siblings who show you stuff that you don't otherwise you wouldn't have seen. So yeah, I'm still
It
shocked though when I meet people who are like, why haven't you at least taken 2 hours out of your day to just watch it? It's good. Oh, the best part was she was like, I started with episode 1. I'm like, I'm out. like, oh my,
I have some
that is
friends
not
that
the
argue
stepping
that.
stone you want.
No,
So
I have some friends that argue that, though. I disagree, but that's a whole
I'm
other
not
thing.
saying one is bad, but I'm not. I'm saying don't watch it in
Oh,
that
I
order.
will.
You gotta watch it in machete order.
You know what? I know. The
Machete order
order
just eliminates one altogether.
I think the best order is just watch 4, 5, 6 and just be done with it.
No, but
That's just me.
haven't you ever seen? So here's the thing. I used to have like I'm not a fan of the prequels initially, but if you read this, there's this amazing interview that David Filoni did in. It's part of the Mandalorian when you see the
I,
round table discussions.
yeah, I think I've seen that.
If you just Google David Filoni talking about Star Wars, I forget what the exact search is, but he's basically telling you how even if you're looking at, so for example, you're looking at the battle, the lightsaber duel between Darth Maul, Obi-Wan, and Qui-Gon, and you're looking at it like this is a cool lightsaber battle, right? Which it was, in my opinion. In case anyone hates it, but the core thing here is Anakin was supposed to have a father figure in Qui-Gon. Qui-Gon gets killed, and he's basically left with Obi-Wan, who's basically like a brother figure, not so much a father figure. Like he
Right.
basically is reluctantly taking him on to train him, right?
Yeah.
And so that's part of it, basically. And then how like this dude now has to grow up. He's consistently kicked around. Like
I I
it tells
think
you like
it's
how he
it's not so
slowly.
much all of that for me. Star Wars for me is much the same way as like Dune is, where there's enough of a story within that, and then I can say after that I'm like, cool, I'm out. I don't need to see any more.
Sure.
This was enough for me. Because then everything after that is batshit crazy as far as I'm concerned. Like when I'm talking about Dune.
Right.
Um, and Star Wars is very much that's something I've had to coalesce over the years, realizing like, I really just kind of like these three movies and then maybe a few scattering things of here and there, but otherwise like I don't really need all the rest.
I
And
mean,
other
I
people
like
take that,
finding the. I
they're
like the
more
little
than welcome to like
nuances.
that's fine. People are more than welcome to enjoy all that kind of stuff. Like just
Sure.
for me, I'm like, nah, I just need these
You're
three and
content. Yeah.
yeah, I'm content. I like the larger unknowableness of the first three that presents, where there's a
Hmm.
lot of things in that aren't spelled out, and you're just kind of left to your own devices, just like what that actually entails, or like how does this
I
work and
get
stuff.
it.
And that was like something that always like bugged me as I was like getting older. I was like, I don't like how it's a series that doesn't really try to expand itself. It just becomes more insular and kind of Ouroboroses itself and kind of turns back on itself over and over again. And as a
Well,
result, it becomes all the weird things about it become less weird. And then as a result, the universe feels smaller.
yeah, I can see that. I mean, I do wish they didn't make the last. As much as I liked Force Awakens to a degree, but I didn't like. I didn't hate the 7, 8, 9. I just wish they had done better. And
There,
you know,
yeah, I mean, there's
there's no
nothing to write
takebacks in
home
that
about.
arena. Um,
But at least in like recent stuff, I really, really liked
all the
Andor.
Netflix stuff's been banging it out. Like
I even that like I would say like I don't necessarily like all the Disney Plus series, but I really liked Andor. I thought
Andor
that
was
was
top notch. Well, I think
yeah, I
the
thought
one thing that was cool about Andor was like there was no Jedi's.
yeah, no Jedi's. It had a very clear message to itself, and
Hmm.
even though it was a slow, I mean, I didn't think it was slow, but I know people complained about it having a slow pacing. I actually think it had much better pacing compared to some of the other shows, which kind of meander.
I mean,
Where
it's
yeah, sure,
pace.
there's action, but there's not really like anything consequence that happens within the episode where you're like, what the fuck just happened? Like
Right.
nothing happened during this episode.
I mean, I think it's paced like that because they want you to pay attention. Like
Oh yeah,
Andor is not. It's not about the action. It's about the fact these guys are about to do something serious. You know.
yeah.
I mean,
And
which
at least the way they, because it was it 8 episodes or 9?
yeah, I
It
think
was
it
set up.
was.
It was set up basically where there was each chunk of episodes. I think it was like three each. I can't remember how many episodes there were, but like the first three, that's basically a movie. The next three, that's a movie. The last three after that, like that's a movie, or it's your story arcs that happen.
Right.
But
And it's setting you
anyway,
up towards if you know, yeah, anyway, either way, if you know the
this is
character.
a whole
This is a whole
other
Star Wars
conversation.
episode. We
Yeah.
can move past this. I was gonna say earlier you mentioned about how Um, you can create that oil painting effect. And I was gonna quickly mention, I was talking to this artist named Dan Cohen, who was
Oh
in the
yeah.
main show, who I did not remember. I was such a dick. I just did not remember meeting him in, like, I think I met him in 2018 or 2017 at AllenPanakal. I just don't remember because it was so long ago. But him and I have been communicating on Instagram, and then I was looking at his artwork, like, it looks so familiar to me, you know. And
We were a
then
part of that. I forgot what we called it on Instagram, but it was that group that like we were part of. He was part of that. Elliot Lang was part of it. Jennifer Lesser.
the
Uh,
changeling stuff. No.
no, not the changes. I forget what we called it, but basically it was like, we were trying to like figure out like Instagram's algorithm thing. Like that was like a group chat that
Oh
we used to like
yeah.
post, and we would post, and that way we'd also comment on other things.
Was
He was
he in
part of
there?
that.
That's why I
Yes.
know his work. Okay.
Yeah.
Mm. That's why. It's because the Black Panther. He had like a panther it looked like Guinevere from Forgotten Realms piece, and I was just like, man, I've seen this already. I just couldn't remember where, and that's what it was. Okay. Well, either way, Dan gave me a piece of advice about potentially painting on top of my metal and having the metal come through the paint.
So
I'll
the
tell you.
question I have about that then is, what is that coating on the metal print?
Right. So I was gonna say I don't want to dive deep into the conversation about it because the whole thing. But I
Right.
would not. I want to talk to you on the side later about it because I think there's potential for this idea that he's going to work, and if it does, then it might give me that glow I'm looking for. Um,
Yeah.
but
You
yeah.
know, it's been a yeah. Like speaking of metal prints, like yeah, I saw some of Bruce's recently when he was in town, and yeah, no, it just confirmed the same thing I kept thinking was like, yeah, metal prints are, if you're a digital artist, like by far, metal prints are the best thing for your digital art.
Yeah.
It's
I
like
mean,
it's like the best representation of how digital art should look.
yeah. I mean, it's a
In
visual
the
thing,
physical
and you have
space.
to be see it in person. It's really hard to show you a metal print online. It just doesn't
No, yeah,
shine.
because
Like
it's
if I show
you
you
know what
this
you know what
piece,
it's a lot like? It's Scott Fisher's like bronze
copper.
or copper paintings.
Like this is
Yeah,
just blown out, right? And you could tell it's shiny because it's reflecting, but you can't
but
really tell.
it doesn't show like any of the depth
Like this
whatsoever
is
that's
super
going on
shiny
there.
here, but you can't tell on the screen. It's a visual thing you need to see in person.
Yeah.
It's just print on actual aluminum.
Honestly, like I this I'll say it for myself at least, like whatever digital art you see like on your screen or whatever, or like on your
Hmm.
iPhone, that's pretty much what it's going to look like as a metal print, at least to my eyes.
To a degree. I mean, like
Pretty
I've
close
seen
degree,
pretty close.
I
It'll
think.
come close. I've seen. I tell people to be careful when they print their, like, that's a darker piece with some highlights.
Yeah, I
Most
was
of my
gonna say
pieces are bright,
yes.
so it works fine. But I've seen people take darker pieces and print on metal, and it'll still have the shine, but it won't have that pop you're looking for because you need to actually hit certain areas. You have to. The file for the digital print looks different than the original digital file. If that makes sense, a lot of the colors have to be saturated up.
But I think I mean, that's like all my print files. Like I have to bump up the levels or like the gamma a
To
couple
get it to
steps
print
just
right. Hmm.
yeah, because like you just assume like anything that gets printed, even if it's like a metal print like that, like it's gonna be darker just by the way
Right.
by the nature of how ink is applied to a surface. Like it's gonna be darker. It's what
So yeah,
happens.
this is
You're,
just.
you're moving from an additive color mixing table, which is digital, which is like it adds up to white, to a
Hmm.
subtractive thing, which is it goes down to black.
Correct.
So
That's exactly a good
you're
way.
not
That's
gonna
a good way to look at it.
yeah.
And
So
people
as
people
long as you
just
keep
willy
that in
nilly
mind,
send their stuff out and they get metal and they're like, oh, it doesn't look as good. I'm like, yeah, there's a bunch of spots on this you just didn't adjust.
yeah.
You know. Well, let's see. I'm trying to think if there's anything else interesting that happened at IX
Did you get your cookie?
from the hotel. Yeah, I did
Yeah.
it twice actually. I didn't do too much, man. It tasted a little bit like, like it tasted good, but I was like, this is definitely milk chocolate, and
Mm.
if I eat too many of these, I might end up crapping my pants. So I did not roll the dice too much on the cookies. I actually showed up this year with a lot of food and snacks in my room, and then the second day we were there, Tawny, Melissa, and myself went to Target and just did some grocery shopping. So we had like
Okay.
bananas, picked up bread, jelly, peanut butter,
Yeah.
basic stuff we could make in the room, basically. Tea. Melissa
Yeah.
bought her, she bought like this giant kettle.
Mm.
It's
It looked
nice.
like out of the few photos I saw, it looked like some people had pretty big. This is for the main show. Like had some people had some pretty big booths going on this year
Yeah.
compared to like in the past. Like I saw Jeremy Wilson's space online. It looked like he had a noticeable upgrade in terms
He
of
had
like
the
his
corner that the
space.
pools are normally in, which is before you go up to the fourth.
Oh,
It's a
he
big
was
corner.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
last year he was in the corner right when you walk in where the sculptor normally is. And
Oh my
it's
God,
not a very
really?
big space. So this year he was
No.
in the back corner. He's able to spread out, which is nice. It's got a lot
Wow.
of work.
Okay. Very cool.
Um, I already own some originals from him too, actually. So I was just like, I'm not going to spend any more money on you, even though I wanted. He had a 5 series. They were like 8x10 of the five D&D classes.
Mhm.
It looked awesome, man. It was like a white background with a black character design. Like the characters just look like silhouettes or shadows with purple showing, accentuating all their like clothing and armor and
Oh,
stuff. It looked great, but I was just like,
yeah. I still want to get an original of his at some point. Just
I've got his.
it's
I always buy his tester pieces. So like
yeah.
I've got the
Honestly, like
Lobster
one of those I would
Johnson,
really like. Yeah.
and I have a Witcher that I bought from him one year. That's what I was gonna show. We got about 10 minutes, probably an hour. I was gonna show as my segment for new things. I was gonna show stuff I picked up at LuxCon.
Yeah,
You want
sure.
to see
We
them?
can do that. We'll do that later.
Sure. If they're there on the floor. But I will show you this quickly. I also did get a lesson from Lauren Pan. Lauren Pinto has a show about fountain pens. Um,
Oh
with her
yeah.
friend. Oh, I can't remember her name.
So is that a Lamey and what's the
Yeah,
other
so
one?
there's a Lamy. She got me a pink one because I like pink. With I was gonna show it to you like you're right here. I was gonna just hand it to you. Um, with a medium nib, and she got me the kit that's got the replaceable cartridge, so I can change the ink out to
Yes.
whatever I want. And then this one is
Is that also a Lamey?
no, it's a Cueco. It's
Oh,
cool because it's
Calico. Yeah,
translucent.
Calico. Yeah.
Calico. That's how you say it.
That's how I pronounced it.
No, that sounds right. It's clear, and this one's got a fine tip on it,
Yeah. There's a here. Well,
and you can see the ink cartridge here, kind of. Here, I'll
so
hold it up.
oh yeah,
See that?
yeah, yeah.
So this one's the one that came with it, but I've got one that I can swap out with it if I want to.
So yeah. So I used to have a Lamey. I since upgraded.
You got the fancy ones, I bet. Yeah.
Well, yeah. So this one, it's a Sailor. Oh, geez, it's like low light. Trying to read an engraving. It's a Sailor 1911. We got it from Sakugachi Pens, I believe the website's called. They're based in Japan. But
Sure.
yeah, it's the same thing. It's I have a cartridge in there so I can fill it up with whatever kind of ink I want.
Do you
And
use
then
that
this
when you're
one,
drawing, or do you use that when you're writing only?
both,
Okay.
both, because it has a really see, you can maybe see
Oh, those are nice.
it's a gold plate. It's a gold nib, and the gold is much more flexible than the steel.
How much do those
Um,
run?
like 100 ish.
That's about right. Okay.
Yeah, like 100. I want to say
Dude, I
150 or
saw one. I
180.
watched this video, this one person she recommended, and he had a pen, I believe it was like $600 or something. And I was like,
Oh yeah.
who's
I
buying
think
this?
there's I think there's a certain price threshold where you're not paying for the quality of the writing itself and more just for like the aesthetic of the pen.
Okay. It's
Um
like buying a
I
BMW when all you need is
yeah,
a
kind of. I
Toyota.
would say like you spend about 150 or so, like you're getting yourself a pretty quality writing pen or drawing
I mean,
pen
that
for
thing looks
that.
like it's got some weight to it.
It does. It has a little bit of weight to it.
These are
Feels nice,
super light.
hefty. And then I
Listen,
also have this one. This is actually this one's cheaper. It's from Jet Pens, but it's a I don't know if you can see that. It's a brush pen.
Oh, sweetness. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a brush fountain pen. These are not synthetic hairs; they're sable, which
Okay, so that
is
sounds
really
like
nice.
some.
So it holds a point like nobody's business. And then because it's fountain ink, it doesn't dry out, or you don't run the risk like you would with India ink, where if it
Right.
dries out, the pen's ruined. Um, so yeah, I use those two in combination with
That's cool.
like
Yeah,
one
I
of
was
these
thinking I
guys,
can use
the
this. I
Niji
got one of
water pen.
those.
Yeah, I
Yep.
use one of these because the fountain pen ink is water soluble, so you can get some gradations and tones in there and stuff. Yeah,
Yeah, I have one of those for my
I
watercolor
love it.
palette.
It's a good, great sketching
I
ink.
mean, I traded her pens for mats, and I also got a tutorial. Like, I got to play with. She's got like a bag of pens. Like, I went through like a bunch, and it was funny. Like, I didn't know what to write when I was testing, so I'd be like, "This is black ink. This is media," and I was like, instead of just writing something like "awesome, awesome, awesome," I was like, "I don't know what to write when I'm typing. Like, is there something people write? I don't know." Like, I was making lines with it, but I could tell like the super fine and the fine nibs. I'm like half and half on. They just felt like I don't like that flow. I like more ink on my
I
paper.
think like so. I feel the same way. Like this pen, it's a medium nib, I want to say,
Yeah.
and I have a fine nib floating around. I gotta find it. But yeah, it's like just a little too resistant with ink. Maybe I just need to break it in a little more. But
That's what she told me too. She's like, the nibs get more solid once you use them more and more.
yeah,
I'm like, all right, that's fine.
yeah. So anything else of note within Illuxcon? Or
Um, trying to think of anything exciting happened there. Mm-mm.
yeah, nothing.
No, I mean, there's just everything was just low key this round, man. I mean, even there's no issues with dinners. We all just figured that shit out. um,
Good.
I'm not gonna name names, but there are some artists in the main show who talk to the showcase artists like we're not good enough because we're in the showcase. And I will tell you who they are later after this call. But if they do happen to watch this video, y'all a bunch of assholes and you should do better. Because just because you're in the main show doesn't mean we're not good enough to be in there. We're just, we're not traditional. So we got put in with, the digital category. We're in the showcase because of
Right.
that. But that doesn't mean our art's bad. It doesn't mean your art's better. But
Right.
the way they were talking to some of us, I was just like, listen, you dinosaur. Like, have some respect. We're being nice to you, be nice to us. But I was edging, man. I was just like, I'm gonna say something to this person, but then I was like, it's cool. I'm gonna walk away.
I know.
It was a lot of like, oh, you're in the showcase. Oh, good for you. I'm just like,
See, I don't understand that because
it's
someone
like
like Alan
condescending.
Williams will
Alan
be in
Williams
the
would
show.
never talk to us that way. So
No, but I was gonna say he depending on how much effort he wants to put in, he's been in the showcase and the main show, and it's entire. It's not like he can't get into the main show.
yeah, I'll
It's
tell you
Alan
this much:
Williams. He can get into the main
this
show, but
this specific person would never talk to Alan Williams this way. Matter of fact, this person has apologized to Alan Williams for his behavior. So,
okay, yeah, you'll have to
um,
tell me later. I
I'll
think.
tell you later. I was just like, what? So if there was like a hiccup in there, and it was like that, and he was talking that way to one of our friends, but she handled it brilliantly, and I was just so proud of her. So I was just like, cool. And I feel like that's how everyone. I'll tell you what happened later because I don't want to start a thing, but if there was anything that was like this could be a thing, that almost felt like it's gonna like, but I was just like, let's just keep
Right.
it here. Um, it just felt like everybody was chill this round, man. Minus, like I said, one or two butt heads,
That's good.
which is
That's
which is
good.
typical for a show. So,
Yeah.
um, I was trying to think if anything like amazing happened, but there was a cool little thing. Iris hid a bunch of I don't know if I have my.
Oh yeah, the ducks.
Yeah, I found a pink one. If I can
Who
find
won?
it.
Who found the golden one? Do you know?
So I know somebody found it. I don't know who it was. I think maybe they wanted to stay anonymous. Here, so I found.
Yeah, it's a great little idea. Oh,
I
they're
actually
way
found a.
tinier than I
I
thought.
found a pink one,
Oh my
which I thought was
goodness.
perfect because it fits perfectly
Yeah.
for my branding, which is pink and purple. But Dude, they were everywhere. Like you know when like like when someone's like, if someone didn't tell you there were ducks hidden around the showcase, main show and showcase and such, you would
You
never
probably
even notice
wouldn't
them.
have. Yeah.
But once the idea was in our heads, we're all just like, "There's one." It's like when you have ants in your house.
So, okay, so from the outside, I know that she posted a couple times online about it,
Her
but
artwork is still lost.
yeah, that too. Yeah, I do know that as well. But with the ducks, did she have like signage up or whatever, like in the show itself, be like, hey, like look around for these ducks?
She posted it, I think, on Facebook and Instagram.
Facebook and Instagram, I want to say, yeah.
She's got such a huge following, right? All of us were just like, there's ducks all over the place, you know?
Yeah.
And I think I found that duck within like you like I said, once you know they exist, you're looking for them. I think I found that within like 10 minutes of hearing about it. So, and apparently there were two golden ducks,
Oh,
which
wow.
I don't know who found them. So,
Hmm.
and that's, there's, if you have like, regrets, like I didn't get to catch up with Iris as much as I wanted to. So I was a little sad about that. Her and I talk all the time online, which is, we're friends. I would have liked to just like sit down and catch up with her, but she's so popular and so busy. I'm just like,
Yeah.
there's no like minute. There's a couple artists like that where I was like, I want to just sit and chat and catch up, but it's like that they're just needed elsewhere. So you're just like,
Yeah.
bye, talk to you later. But there are also a couple artists that like I don't really catch up with all the time or get to. I was able to sit down and talk to them this round, like Alessandra. I never really get to talk to her too much because she's really busy doing the show, but I was able to like have full conversations and just touch base on things, which is that's kind of what you're there for too, right? You want to like catch up with your friends. So
Yeah. Yeah. And just meet, yeah, see everyone you haven't seen in a while and all that.
I did not go into the peanut bar at all this round.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna ask if you guys went to the peanut bar this year or not.
I had a miserable experience there last year where I felt like, Asha
I
did
know,
an
I
awesome
remember I
thing.
remember you telling me, yeah,
Asha did a
about it.
cool thing. She set up the lunch and I went there, but it's just miserable the whole time. And I was just like, I didn't like the way I was being treated. I didn't like the service. I didn't like the
Yeah.
food. I was just like, that's three strikes.
Yeah.
You Also, if you're allergic to peanuts, you'll just die when you walk in there. Dude, it's just. We did find a cool uh was it Cambodian?
Oh,
No, it's Cuban, I believe. I ordered this like it was like beef, but it came out like cut in chunks, almost like steak chunks, and
okay.
it was they took a plantain. It's called mafungo,
Oh, yeah.
mafungo,
Mhm.
and they're the plantain that they like make a patty out of. I only thing was I thought it would be sweet with the savory of the meat.
No, yeah, it's not a sweet plantain.
It is not. I was very disappointed in that. Very disappointed. I was
Yeah.
just like, but the lady who works there was so nice and so sweet. I didn't have the heart to be like, this
I
doesn't taste
actually
like what I wanted.
I think correct me if I mean, someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the majority of Cuban dishes are if they have plantains in them, it's savory plantains, not sweet.
That's what I thought.
That's at least my experience. Like it's rarely sweet plantains.
Okay, it's good to know because I was like disappointed and I was just like, but I was hungry and it didn't taste bad. It just didn't taste like what I expected,
Right.
right? And then we were there and we ordered. I asked her if she had like Coke, and she had this like whatever soda. Dude, it had like 400 calories in it. I refused to drink it. And
Oh
then
my god.
Josiah drank it. He was like, he got halfway through it. And he's like, man, my head is like bubbling. And I was just like, yeah, man, this is like a Jolt Cola you just drank.
Yeah.
I would never have drinking that, but he did. He seemed fine.
God.
Um, we did set up a rusty skillet table in the showcase.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, there was a setup,
Yeah.
like a bunch of people just, or there was the table itself, and
So we
then
had the
was there like
table, and I
people that
provided
were
4 panels for it, and then Tyler didn't show up, so she gave us her table.
okay?
So we had 2 tables, and then I put my 4 panels, and I needed 4 for myself. So um,
Mhm.
Joe did manage to knock that over one day on accident, which was
Oh no.
on the first night. It was insane. He stood up too quick. I think it was the first night. He stood up so quick, and then all I saw was a wall fall. Ben and I quickly grabbed it. It fell in like slow motion, so it was easy enough
Right,
to just
right.
put back up. What was funny was the guy behind it. It like slowly fell on him. He was just like, "Oh, what's happening?"
Oh no.
And then I quickly like put it up. I was like, "Are you alright?" He's like, "He was fine. It's a pro panel. It weighs like nothing." So, um, could have been worse, and it wasn't. He was more embarrassed because everybody saw it. He was more embarrassed because specific artists that he really, really looks at a higher level saw it. I'm like, they don't care that you just did that. They're more concerned did anyone get hurt. Accidents happen, man.
Yeah.
So, um, but I think that table was a hit. I saw like, we had postcards. Everyone sent in a print to hang on the wall, and postcards or business cards to hand out. And the table seemed pretty empty by the end of the show. So hopefully,
Very
you
cool.
know, art directors grabbed. I saw art directors here kind
Something.
of grabbing stuff too. So hopeful
Yeah,
that
very cool.
it helps. Yeah, man, I can't think of anything else.
Pretty good. And I missed you guys by like a few days.
Dang it. Well, hopefully next year you're just there with us. So
Yeah, yeah, hopefully. I mean, I wanted to be
you were doing
my
your thing in
my
Philly.
yeah, so like I had a plan earlier this year that I wanted to try and make it up to Philly for Reading, Pennsylvania for LuxCon, right?
Yep.
Um wasn't like totally set in stone because it factored on a lot of things. But then I got invited on a separate thing that I can't talk about to come up to Philly, and coincidentally, it was like the week right before LuxCon. What's
Mm-hmm.
funny though is like I taught like everyone I met there. I feel like everyone I met there, I harassed them by asking if they knew about a LuxCon, and if not, why? If they haven't, like, why have they not gone up there
I
yet?
mean, Murray knew about it, right? He was there with you, said.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Sean Andrew Murray, yeah,
Yeah.
he was there. I don't think I even asked him about Alexa because he should know. I'm pretty sure he
He
would
knows.
know.
He's usually there every year with us.
Yeah.
Usually.
But
He
no,
wasn't
there
there.
was some other people. There was actually mainly it was like the local people that I met that I was like, have you gone to this? Like this is like an hour and a half away for you. You guys could
Mm-hmm.
easily make like a day trip out of this. Um, like there's one artist I met, Paul Romano. He lives in Philly. He's a album cover artist. He's done like what did he say? About 400 album covers for
What?
various bands. Yeah. He does a lot of primarily does a lot of heavy metal covers.
That's a lot more covers than I expect one artist to have.
Oh yeah, no, he's done it for a while, I believe. But yeah, so he's
Is he
in
older?
addition, yeah, not by much, but yeah, like a
Okay.
little bit older than us, but I would say not by much.
What the hell are we doing?
Um,
We don't have 400 album covers.
I think it's just been hustling for ages,
Yeah, yeah, I
kind of
get
deal.
that.
But yeah, no, he's done stuff for I think he said Mastodon.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I want to say Megadeth. Paul, I'm sorry if I'm remembering it wrong. Um, very nice person, very nice gentleman though. And
Sure.
his wife was his wife was also really great. So the interesting thing for me, the one thing I can talk about, for the most part, my trip to Philly was spent within like one room for the majority of the time. Um, but on my way to my hotel, I noticed this large paintbrush sculpture across the street from my hotel, and I was like, "What is that?" So I looked it up, and it's this place called the Pennsylvania Academy of Fine Art, which I found out afterwards. And initially, I didn't think I was going to get to go there because it was closed Tuesday and Wednesday, and then the other days it was only open from 10 to 4, and I wasn't going to get out of meetings until about 5. So I was like, all right,
Mm-hmm.
well, I can't go. It's going to be like I'm going to be in meetings from like 8 to 5, so I can't see this. Paul's wife, though, Darla Jackson, she works there at Pennsylvania Academy in the foundry department. So I want to say it was a Wednesday night. She let a bunch of us in after hours. She was like, "Oh yeah, I've got keys. I'll just like we could just walk in, like they
That's
know me
cool.
and stuff." Yeah. So we walked in, and yeah, it's this place, Pennsylvania Academy of Fine Art. It's the first art school established in the United States, which was fascinating to me. I think it was like established in
That's interesting.
1780 or something like that. Yeah, it's been around for a minute, to say the least. Um, and it was so okay. I'm sure. I feel like any artist that listens to this knows like knows roughly the back history of art schools, but especially like I want to say like from around our age or maybe older, where a lot of art schools kind of for a while threw out fundamentals and
Hmm.
everything they consider like classical tradition, and it was a lot of like paint your feelings and all that. Well, during that, a lot of them also threw out their like plaster copies that they had of like famous statues and stuff. Like some
Sure.
of them had like big collections and they just like chucked them as part of this whole like counter revolution thing of like no we or revolution thing where they like we reject the traditional conservative approach to art. We're doing this new postmodernism thing with it, right? That did not happen apparently at the Pennsylvania Academy of Fine Art because first off, you're walking in and there's just like rows of like busts and statues and stuff. Some original, some plaster casts, I believe, and
Sure.
that's leading up into this one large room where, like, right just in the corner of this large room, there's a plaster copy of the statue of David, and it's
Oh,
full
yeah,
size.
you
It's
sent
not
us a
like
photo of that.
yeah, it's not even like it's not like a to scale replica or anything. It is just the statue of David replicated 1 to 1 as a plaster copy.
That's insane.
Yeah. And there's some other ones in there too that were also like really, really good quality. There was a statue of Laocoon and his sons. It's the one statue where, if you know Laocoon, it's the one where it's a man and he's holding a snake, and the snake is biting him and his 2 sons that are
Yeah.
next to him and stuff. Um, the only other time I've ever seen that statue was in Savannah in the Chatham Museum there. They had a copy of it as well, but that copy I think was like third or fourth generation.
Dang.
So it's really like you know how like Xeroxes get when you do like a copy of a copy kind of thing, and shit gets like fuzzy and
Yeah.
ill defined. That happens to like plaster copies. If you do a plaster copy of a plaster copy, the quality degrades. And if you
Degrades.
keep
Okay.
doing that, it degrades further. So the one in Chatham is like I want to say like a third or fourth generation because it's kind of mushy.
Got it.
It's
That's interesting though.
okay-ish, but it's kind of mushy. But this one in the Pennsylvania Academy was sharp. I'm pretty sure it was taken right from the original.
I think that was like
Same way
number
that the
one.
yeah, same way that the statue of David was like that. It was such a good quality. I'm fairly certain it was taken just from the original. And probably back in the era when it was just an outdoor statue before they brought the statue of David inside. It used to be out in like a city square or whatever. So I'm wouldn't be surprised that that's around the time when they took the copy of it and then
It
brought
could.
it back. Yeah,
Sure.
yeah. So yeah, so as I was saying, like before, technical difficulties that cut it off. Yeah, the I'm pretty certain it was a plaster copy from the original statue. It was just that sharp of detail, and I'm pretty sure it was like from the era when the statue existed outside before it was brought inside. Because
Right.
like now, yeah, like now it sits inside. It's on like an 8 foot high plinth and everything. So even when you're going to see it, it's like you're doing like that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
This was I could walk up and I could like touch his knee if I
Oh,
wanted to.
cool.
Yeah,
Because it's a
like it was
plaster mold.
it's a plastic mold, but also it's like it's right there ground level with you and there's no barrier. So
That's
I
kind of
could have
cool.
done it. I didn't do it because I was like, I don't want to touch this or whatever. Because God knows I don't want to be responsible for anything
Yeah,
happening
knowing
to
your
it.
luck, it would just.
Yeah, so but no, it was awesome. That was a highlight for me for the trip. Also met a ton of great people. Some people it was funny. It was kind of like an LuxCon for me where the people I met, I want to say I knew maybe like two-thirds of them, not personally,
Okay,
but I knew of their work. So
it's better
like they're
than not
going around
knowing
and
anything about them.
huh?
Better than not knowing anything about them.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's true. But yeah, no, like it was like we're going around introducing ourselves. It's like, oh, like yeah, like I know their work, I know their work, I know their work, and I was like, oh, cool. And then like yeah, when Sean spoke about, yeah, like my head like snapped over. I was like, oh shit, I just know
You know,
you.
you're like, I know that voice. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's funny. Did you guys at least get to hang out there? I mean, like, to get lunch or something? Or...
Uh, excuse me. Not so much lunch. We had working lunches,
Got it.
kind of thing. Dinner, yeah. Occasionally, like the way kind of dinner happened was like people just kind of split off into like little groups of like five or six or whatever and go off to find food.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, we did that every night. And then you could do like some hanging out afterwards, but everyone was it was
Cashed out,
early,
probably.
yeah, early hours. Like had to wake up and be out the door by like 7:45 each day
Mm-hmm.
on the dot and
Oh,
get to the thing
Jesus,
because
that's early.
yeah, so it was like because there's a lot of like other stuff like having to get processed and everything
No,
that
I
we had
get
to
it.
do each
Mm-hmm.
day. Um, so yeah, just because of that, and then I think because it was like long days of like meetings and listening to lectures and meetings and stuff that like all of us were just kind of like mentally drained for the most
Sure.
part.
Yeah,
But
definitely did not go to any panels this round. I was like, I felt like I was gonna fall asleep if I sat down in any panels.
what were there any panels that caught your eye that you decided against doing in the end, or
There was one about AI, which I kind of sat in on last year, but I feel like some of the information is just not. I don't want to say it's not accurate, but I just feel like there's stuff about it we just don't know yet, right? So it's like,
who was hosting that? Was that Kirsten again or someone else?
no, it was Seth. Seth did a talk about AI
Oh,
stuff
okay.
last year, um, and then he had Kelly McKiernan sit in with him too, and I was just like, I just, there's
Gotcha.
a area there where I felt like if I walked in there, I might not necessarily argue, but I would contradict stuff just to be like, because we know a bunch of people who kind of work directly in that industry. So I feel like I have a base. I won't say I'm an expert in it, but there's things I want to say about it, and which would just spark arguments. So I was just like, I'm just gonna not go in there, for my own sanity, because
Yeah.
there's, like one person says this is how it works, another person says this is how it works, and like, who's right? Who knows? Because none of us really know. So I was like, I felt like that was going to happen in that room, but with like
Yeah.
50 people directly. And because even
It's
last year when I
it's
sat in on Seth's
kind of
talk,
like it's kind of like any copyright
yeah.
conversation, but worse because
Well,
yeah.
I sat in on the AI talk Seth had last year, and he had to keep saying, this is based on what I know up until this point about AI, right? This is based on what we've been told. Like, he's like, again, he himself is, as a lawyer, smart enough to be like, this is not fact. This is just based on what I know. Like,
Mhm.
but some one or two things were being presented as if this is how it works, and I was just like, I don't think that's right. I'm pretty sure that's not how it works, but also I just don't want to deal with the argument here, right? My knowledge is also based on something I read somewhere, just like your knowledge is based on something you read somewhere. No one's
Yeah.
come forward to be like, here's exactly how this stuff works. Does that make sense? So I wanted to sit on that talk, but then also, here's the thing. Before I don't want anyone to be like, I'm either against or for it, but I'm willing to have a discussion about it. But I feel like a lot of people went into that room.
I was gonna say like that panel, like how beneficial would it have been?
Correct.
Because
So
you're already having that kind of conversations and stuff
yeah,
anyhow.
we're already, artists are already having this conversation, but I felt like that panel was going to be people arguing about it and not just having a discussion. If you're having a discussion, I'm willing to listen. It sounds like a nice. Everyone should have discussions about things like this. If you're having an argument, then there's no room for discussion. You've already gone off the rails. So
Yeah.
Drew Baker did a really cool like plein air painting
Oh, really?
thing where he set up all these, he had like a Strata easel and a bunch of other companies I never heard of, but some of them are like easels he uses. I don't know if he makes them directly or what, but
No, I don't
dude, there
think
were like
he
10
does.
easels in there, 10 what do you call them, like plein air kits in that room. Like
Yeah,
we
he
took
tried.
Miles in there and Miles ended up buying one. So
Was he like showing them off and be like, "Here's this one does. Here's
yeah,
the
yeah,
things I
they're
like about
all
this
set up to
one."
be like, here's what you can do with this. They're big ones, small ones. They're ones that attach to like a tripod, like a camera
Mm,
tripod and stuff. And I'm just like,
yes,
they all look cool, but just I didn't
I'm
buy
not
any.
surprised by that. He seemed I mean, it's been a minute since I've had a chance to talk to Drew one on one and stuff, but yeah, like I remember showing him this little chair I picked up when I was in Japan. That's
Mm-hmm.
like it's like the size of like this sketchbook, and you can unfold it and it becomes like this little chair that you can sit down on. I was like, oh, it's great. I used it for like outdoor sketching and stuff. And he was like, oh, cool. Like I'm gonna. He immediately notated it down. He was like, I'm gonna pick that up later because that's just a useful thing for plein
He's
air.
probably making like a whole series of benches right now.
Yeah, maybe.
So, all right. So now I'm sure we're over the hour mark. So,
Okay. Yeah. So
um,
what did you pick up at LuxCon?
so I picked up.
Because
I have very few originals. I normally pick up. I usually pick up a few, but I did not have the spending, the money for this round. So I picked up some stuff I could afford. This is from Elise Stewart.
oh, very nice.
It is. I believe it's acrylic. I was like, I'm gonna snag that. This
It's gorgeous.
piece, I missed out last year. I can't remember this artist's name. Her husband does all like the Godzilla and King Kong pieces. Um, I'm sure her name's on this, so once I open it up, I'll tell you. But last year, she was selling these spaceships ridiculously cheap. I mean, when I say cheap, I mean like $100, $200. Okay, which for this piece is like that is cheap. So this year, as soon as I got in the showcase, I'm sorry, the main show, I went to her first to pick up a piece, so I did not miss out. But this is right up my alley. Space.
Oh, wow.
Wait, am I showing this right? Oh, it's like this. You see that? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, I like that. That's awesome.
It's Marianne Plumridge. This is on
Hmm.
oils. It's called the. Looks like it says the 11 arrows, which for $100, man,
That's great.
you can't beat it. Then let me find you. I got a couple, and then I thought that's it. I'm done. This is all I'm gonna buy. But as I walked around the showcase, start seeing more stuff. Yeah, nice, nice. Donato. This was $5, which is a steal
Yep.
for Donato. Um, I traded some sketchbooks to Chris's children, so he gave me one of his new prints, which I think is
Hey, okay.
amazing.
Yeah.
I love this white negative space here, and this here. Um, and then Eric Messenger, who is slowly raising the cost on his pieces. I got this. It was not that expensive for Eric.
Oh, nice.
It's graphite. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And then the one I spent the most on, this is Miles. I basically commissioned him to do. You've seen the Nightcrawler back here.
Hmm.
That guy right there. You can see my messing room
Yes.
too. So I commissioned him to do uh, another piece to sit next to that, another X-Men. And if I can untape this, I will show you. But it is my other favorite X-Men is Gambit. It is really taped up. Good job, Miles. I have to get a frame for it though. But he brought it to the show, so I was able to bring it home with me. We are still recording. That's good. And his oils. And if you guys don't know Miles' work, Miles Wool. He's been on the show, I believe. We talked X-Men with him before. Oh, brother. really tape this up. There we go. Oh, I see what's happening.
Oh wow.
Yeah. I
God
mean,
damn, yeah,
it's
that's
clutch.
awesome.
So I'm gonna put that up right next to the Nightcrawler as soon as I get a frame for it. Finally. Oh, as I almost dropped it. But yeah, that's it. I usually, dude, I usually walk away with a few originals, and I was shocked that this is all I got this year. So, but again, like I said, my budget's been a little tight this year. So, 2 kids will do that to you.
Oh yeah, I know that feel.
So I was like, I don't have the money to spend on originals this round. I felt bad because that's just I look forward every year to, and like there was a couple things in the showcase that I wanted, just couldn't swing around and get it. But there was this guy. I will figure out who he was and message him later. But he had these little. You would have loved it. There were these little sculpts, and I'll send you a photo of them. There's little like glass containers, and inside the little glass container was like a little fish with a little like merfolk.
Oh
And
nice.
they were like as tall as my thumb, and then they got bigger and bigger. But that tiny one was like $50, I think. And I was like, I would have bought that if I remember to go back.
Yeah.
But I was so busy, I just spaced on it. So,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Ah.
that's what I got for the week.
Oh, very cool. So I got to exchange. So after meeting everyone in Philadelphia, when I was up there, I sent out a couple sketchbooks to some people just to say like, hey, like I'd love to
Nice.
send you guys
Yeah.
out some work or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But I did get one back from someone that I met there. Her name is Kat Hudson.
Mm-hmm.
You could find her at Kat Hudson Art on Instagram and all that. But she's a character designer for animation industry.
Cool.
Her first job was the My Little Pony show that Lauren Faust did.
The new ones, yeah.
Yeah, the newer ones. Yeah, just really, really gorgeous work.
That's great.
Yeah, like if you're any kind of fan of like character design and stuff, like yeah, just fantastic work. Let me find another great page. Yeah, like
Oh, that's
it's like
great.
Lion Decker inspired,
Yeah.
Harley
Totally.
and Ivy. Yeah, no, it's fantastic work. So I was really excited that I got this from her, and I also she sent me some stickers as well.
I was gonna say that stuff would look great on stickers.
Yes, so she has stickers as well. I need to figure out the sketchbooks I want to put these on, but like, there's that one. It says
Ooh.
"Pucker Up."
Okay, yeah.
Great little one. I like that. That one's probably my favorite. This one they aren't worth the saline.
Nice.
A little great one.
The glitter.
Yeah. This one I thought was like pretty great. And then this little Medusa one, which I love it.
Stone Cold.
Stone Cold Stunner.
Nice. It's backwards on my screen. That's why.
Ah, right. Yes. So yeah, no. Great little stickers. I gotta find. I've yet to decide which sketchbooks they're gonna go on. It's either gonna be maybe on this one, which is my painting sketchbook.
Sure.
I've been using this to catalog like all different paint styles and stuff that I've been playing around with. Could
That's
go
good.
on this one that shares an Elliot Lang sticker right now. So maybe I'll join on that. Or it could be on I have another sketchbook that's floating around right now that I'm using as well that currently has nothing on it. It's just like a blank black sketchbook.
I gotta, speaking of Elliot, he had a series of paintings where it's like, I think it was 7 or 8 in a row, and they all formed a parade of creatures from Halloween, just marching in a parade essentially. But I was just like,
God, I would have loved to see that.
I took photos, but I was just like, how would, like, how do you, so this is random thought for later probably, but I was trying to figure out how would you market it in such a way you're like, hey man, this is all part of a series of 7. If you put them all together, they essentially make like old school like X-Men Danger Room
Mhm.
sequence. Because somebody bought the middle one. I'm like, that person's chaotic. I'm like, whoever
You
bought that
know,
center one is chaotic.
uh, I mean, from a collector standpoint, you'd either have to design that in mind for a specific collector to be like, oh, buy here's all of them, or just be okay with like, yeah, these are all going to get split up.
Right.
But you know what? He probably did. Did he sell like prints or anything of them as a collection?
I don't know if he sold prints or not.
Because that's what I would have done. I probably would have been like, you know, one of these is too expensive, but here you pay like $50 or
Correct.
whatever, or however much, and here's a little pack of all of them, so you can lay them all
I don't
out.
recall seeing prints, so pretty sure he does have them though. It's not a bad
Yeah,
idea. All right,
that's at
well,
least what I
we're like I'm guessing once I splice the videos together, we're about 20 minutes over.
do. Okay, it's usual then. We're
Usual.
always like
Okay.
20 minutes over.
Yeah, it's unavoidable. I think that's really it. Everything I talk about. I guess next time, hopefully, it'll be Milena, who goes by Voidbug, on socials. So if you type in Voidbug, you'll find a bunch of her work. It's all really, really good.
Sounds
So,
good.
um, otherwise, yeah, man, it's been good hanging out.
Yeah, good.
Oh,
Awesome. I wish I could have been at Alluxcon this year, but maybe
it's
next
all
year.
good. But where can people find all your information? Yeah, they go look you up on
Oh
socials.
yeah. Um, asidesart.com.
Mhm.
Sign up for the newsletter or the Patreon. I do have one note to
Yeah,
say is I now my newsletter now works correctly. For the longest time,
have you had a problem with it?
the whole thing, fucking
Sure. Okay.
Squarespace.
Yeah, welcome to Squarespace.
I'll say it out loud, like in person. No, it was I was on the personal plan for Squarespace for a while,
Mm-hmm.
and they've been clawing back features on it since the
Right.
move to 7.1. And one of the ones they clawed back was on my old version of the my Squarespace site. My newsletter was connected with Mailchimp, and everything kind of worked and all that.
Same.
Uh, since then, that's now part of like you have to be on the business plan to do that. And I recently switched to the business plan because oh, actually, yeah, that is another thing I'll mention is I am currently having a sale on prints,
Mm-hmm.
20% off because I now have the print on demand supplier for those, and that's going until the end of October. So you have until next Tuesday, the 31st.
Till next Tuesday. Okay.
Yeah, so the 31st. After that, the I may do another sale later in the year, possibly, but who knows? I may not do it so soon after the print sale. Any print, 20% off, and the
Not a bad
discount's
deal.
already applied.
That's not a bad deal at all.
No,
Um,
no, not a bad deal at all. And then
all my
yeah, so oh, sorry. So yeah, A Sides Art, sign up for the newsletter there and also the Patreon. And yes, I have the sale until the 31st. And then
nice.
where can we find you, Alan, besides TikTok?
Yeah, TikTok Panakal. Everywhere else Panakal Art. Um, and online just ancientones.net. I'm hoping to revamp it a little bit. I'm pushing new products into the store, so hopefully the store will be updated by one day. We'll see.
Okay.
All right, I'm gonna take us all. I'm gonna test the theory here and just press the space bar and see what happens.